Is there a case of LGBT bullying you heard from the media that stuck with you?
Yes. One case that's really stuck with me regarding LGBT bullying is the Lawrence King case, where he was a 15-year-old young man who was shot point blank range by one of his classmates who was 14 years old in the head. He was shot and killed. So that case really sticks with me. It did happen here in California, and it was all over the news back in 2008. So that's really stuck with me. But I think one thing that really gets me sometimes is you have the cases that really make it into the media, but what about the cases that don't make it because of other reasons? And for instance, I know personally, talking to my neighbor, who's the 12-year-old young man who actually identifies as straight, heterosexual, he was called a faggot and punched by another student at school. And in that incident, him and the other student were suspended. I know we talked to the school to see what was going on, what had happened, because that was a hate incident, and why both boys were suspended. Unfortunately, what happened was the one kid did call him a fag and did punch him, but then he hit him back. So they were both suspended because, if a kid hits someone, then you're suspended. But we were really focused on the language that was utilized in that situation. Why was it acceptable or okay for that one little boy to call him a fag and then hit him? And they were both given the same 2-day suspension. So looking at cases like that, what if that little boy would have had a gun? What if something else would have happened? What if someone would have been hospitalized? We don't hear about cases like that. We don't hear about things like that. But Lawrence King, he was shot point blank in the head. So does it come to the point that someone has to die? Someone has to be murdered? Someone has to commit suicide? Look at Tyler Clemente. Look at all of the other cases that are out there of people committing suicide, these youths who are killing themselves because of bullying. However, that's the only time it makes the media, is when someone's killed. What about when the child isn't killed, but there are still those hate incidents? What are we doing to help those kids out? So I think that's what really gets me, is cases that make the media, yeah, they stick with you and you will remember them, but does it take someone dying to make it that far? Why can't we address all of the hate and the hate incidents that happen on a regular basis, day to day, with elementary schools and high schools and junior high schools? I believe that everyone's entitled to a hate-free education. So being able to go to school and not have to hear someone called a fag or a faggot, or hearing these terms thrown out there like, oh, you're acting gay, or, that's so gay, or, no homo. Listening to those things consistently and constantly, those are forms of bullying, but we don't hear about that. So I think for me, even though those cases make the media, it's because someone had to die. So what can we do to make sure that it doesn't get to that point and we're addressing that right from the start?